Yeah.
All right, while you do that, I'm going to say tonight we have a special guest, Dee Dee Garcia-Blase. And as soon as we're color corrected, you can...
Hold this. Okay, thanks, Lance. Got it.
All right, tell us about yourself.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Didi Garcia-Blase, co-founder of Somos Independence, a Mexican-American woman-led Get Out the Vote organization. We encourage voting with regard to Latinos and Hispanics all over the United States, and encourage voting, which we could do better in. And I also have a radio show, Tequila Onda, and what I like to do is highlight artists, Hispanic artists, not just Hispanics, but in light of the state that I live in, where Republican politicians try to eliminate Chicano studies from history books and so forth. This is sort of my way of shedding light to the positive artists, entertainers, politicians.
And your state is Arizona.
Yes, I'm from Arizona. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I do a number of things, right?
Yes, and
There you go.
We possibly might team up against Lance for one. But before we do that, we've got Lance who reads the comments on our thing, says we have 3 requests, which we'll try to knock off quickly so we can get to the argument. One thing is, I'll start out with this. This is Us Magazine's Best Summer Bodies issue, and annoyingly enough, neither of us is in this, even though, I've got at least the abs of Chadwick Boseman. And it is just ridiculous that I'm not in this, and that you, who can bench more than I can, even though I work out 5 times a day, you're not in it either. We should be in it. Anyway, somebody wanted to know more about my working out, which is propelled by OCD and stomach trouble.
No, wait a minute. They wanted to know what routine you did to get your arms like that.
Well, I've always...
let's not discuss your motivations. They want sincere training tips.
Okay. I've always been veiny. But there are things I've done to get more ripped. And one thing I did about 1.5 years ago, I became intolerant of carbs. I have some kind of E. coli in my gut or something that eats my carbs before I can, which is very unpleasant. So I've had to cut back carbs. You may not know this, but like bodybuilders, by the day of the contest, a bodybuilder should be just about ready to pass out, to faint, to keel over.
Don't move your hand.
Okay, from being deprived, because bodybuilders don't look ripped to shreds except for a couple days a year when they're doing contests. And they do this by extreme dieting, like a wrestler, except worse. Some of them may take diuretics, and anyway, by the time of the contest, they only have enough energy to pose, and sometimes they'll pass out. But because of this, this limiting of carbs, I'm not as bulky as a bodybuilder, but I've been kind of contest ready for 1.5 years. I'll keel over easily. This whole week I've been trying to starve the bacteria with no carbs whatsoever, so I just nap all the time. But anyway, when I go to the gym, the idea is, especially if I'm 58, so I'm too old to do crazy crap like take human growth hormone and go for like max bench presses and all that stuff. I'll tear myself up. So I make it easy so I can be consistent. Because unless you're really into suffering, like if you're doing CrossFit, which brutalizes you and the rest of your life, if it's too hard every day, you'll quit going, or it raises the probability that you'll quit going. So I try to make everything easy, where I have favorite machines at every gym I go to. I use machines because then I can do a bunch of sets, because instead of taking plates on and off, I can just move a dial or move a pin. and I just started a reasonable amount of weight, and like 145 on a bench press machine. Then I just move up 5 pounds at a time, because that's the increments this machine goes at, until I can't do anymore, or until somebody is waiting and gets annoyed that I'm hogging the machine. I do that on every machine, and I rack up a lot of sets. They're little baby sets, like 2 or 3 reps, because I'm propelled by numbers that I've done 200 sets. Today I did 237 baby sets, which is insane. But they're only 2 or 3 reps, so they're not that. But anyway, I just do this ladder until I can't go anymore, or until somebody stands there and gives me dirty looks until I go, "Are you waiting for this?" And they're like, "Yeah," and then I get off.
I've noticed that you don't have an iPhone with you, but what is it that you always have with you when you're at the gym?
Often I have a book. Like Guy challenged me to take an IQ test to get the highest score ever achieved on it lately. So lately I've been skipping the book and taking this little list of IQ problems, and so I'll work on those in between sets. But yeah, everybody else has their frickin' phones, which are worse, because then they'll just sit tapping away.
There were other questions, do you remember?
Yeah, about physics.
Real before that, Didi, do you have any? I know you work out as well. What are some of your workouts?
Yeah, look at Didi's ripped herself.
I didn't know you were gonna have some hottie here with abs. I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, also I cough a lot because one more thing, sorry, Lance and I argue, we end up yelling, and then the next day my throat is all ripped up and I went all day, and coughing is excellent for your abs.
I used to compete in fitness, so you're right. We would pop those water pills and just go high protein, low carbs. I don't do that right now, but he kind of looks down.
No, I'm just looking
He's
at
like, "You're a little meaty there, woman." No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're defined. You got tries and you got all the muscles.
more to love.
But back when I was competing, yes, you have to get ripped. And I, during one competition, I took one too many of those diuretic pills, and I cramped on the stage. It was awful. It was the worst.
What kind of competition was it?
It was a Gold's Gym.
So
competition.
for muscular women, or is it
Fitness.
bodybuilding or fitness? There's a
Fitness.
difference. What's
Correct.
the difference?
Well, bodybuilders tend to take the horse pills and steroids, and I wasn't into that.
Yeah, in women's fitness and bodybuilding,
I wanted to maintain my boobs.
there are it's kind of a sexist setup where male bodybuilders, there's kind of 2 divisions. There's unlimited, where they don't test you for steroids, I don't think, and then there's natural. The natural guys are smaller. And in women's, there's bikini competitive fitness. There's like 4 different flavors at least. There's straight out muscle, where you're just going for bulk like the guys.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know, you can.
Yeah.
How do you prove, just last question on fitness, because people are maybe not interested, but how do you prove you're fit?
Well, you get judged by a panel of 5.
No, but I mean, do you do something,
Oh,
or
yeah.
do you just look fit?
No, you have to do like a dance routine and sort of pose off, your tries, your buys, or whatever.
So
you
it's
wanna.
it's visual.
Correct, and they have the lights.
So you don't like have to run or lift a certain amount
No.
of weight or anything like that.
Dance routine, and then go out in a bikini.
Okay, so it's visual. Like it's like male bodybuilding. All right, second
But
question.
real quick. What do you do in terms of your routine right now, Didi?
I just go to the gym and do some treadmill and at least jog or do steps for 4 to 5 miles and do a light workout.
Yeah, consistency is better than just getting to the gym day after day is the most important part.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
look great for 58.
Thanks.
Yeah, keep it up.
These are clothes. So.
Are
That's
you
worth
serious?
like,
Are you serious?
Yeah, still having hair on the front of my head is worth like 8 years of.
Wow. No way. It looks so real. You look like the most interesting guy in the world. Do you get that a lot?
I used to. Then they fired him and they replaced him with a new most interesting guy because he got
Yeah.
too old. I think he looked like they sent him to Mars or something. All right. So the next thing is physics. All right. Somebody wants me to talk more about my theory, which we'll talk about it more like next week when we don't have a special guest. But in a nutshell, kind of a hefty nutshell. I believe that the universe is made of information, the same way, what's in our minds from moment to moment is information. If you think about what you're thinking about and perceiving, it's all information. Even your attitudes about that's how you feel. Like everything that you're thinking about from moment to moment can be described with a bunch of sentences. It would take like 1,000 sentences probably, but still it could all be described. I'm seeing a stoplight, I'm seeing Lance painting, I'm seeing electrical cord and I'm feeling tired, I'm a little annoyed, Lance keeps moving my arm around, I'm not really, but I could, anyway, all these are thoughts, all these thoughts are made up of information. I suspect the universe is made up of the same thing, and that the math behind the thinking we do and the information processing, which equals the physics that the universe does, is probably pretty close to identical. And then somebody had a specific question about how, every particle in the universe is fuzzy under the rules of quantum mechanics. No particle is completely precisely defined in space. Everything has a little wobble to it, or a little fuzzy, is a little probability cloud. Sorry. And so somebody asked how and why, if there were only two particles in the universe, they wouldn't be able to completely define each other via their interactions. And the deal is that the universe, I think the universe, under the rules of quantum mechanics, everything in the universe is defined, along with space itself, by the interactions among particles, which can be thought of as a continuous gunfight among particles. But the only way particles learn about each other is by exchanging particles, or at least by shooting particles into space. And the deal is that the closer two particles get to each other, the faster they can shoot bullets at each other, which means the more they can, and the more bullets that hit them, the more precisely they'll be defined. So their fuzziness gets less and less the closer they get to each other, but so does the distance between them. So at some point, at every point in this process, it's going to look the same. You have two fuzzy particles a certain apparent distance from themselves. If they got twice as close to, if the distance between them was cut in half, so would their fuzziness be cut in half. And the picture that you'd see of two little fuzz things would look the same. It would be scale free. It would be the same picture regardless of the actual distance between them, because the fuzziness is inversely proportional to the distance between them. So they get twice as close together, they get half as fuzzy. And it looks the same. All right, so now we can move on to the arguey stuff.
Well, back to physics. My son is a medical studies student at Arizona State University. And he said that that just a human being looking at light, it changes it. Whatever you look at,
The observer,
changes
yeah.
things. And they conducted an experiment, proving that, and I was like, wow.
All of quantum mechanics is how the universe deals and the things in the universe deal with having only a limited amount of information about what's going on. And
Yeah.
so there's this famous two-slit experiment where you put two holes in a barrier, and you shoot photons
Yeah.
at the barrier, and they interfere with each other because photons are going through both holes and interfering, and so you get an interference pattern, and that happens even when you're only shooting one photon at a time, because the universe doesn't know which hole that one photon went through. So if it doesn't know, then that photon ends up going through both at once,
Yeah.
and you get the same interference pattern. Unless somebody is watching, or unless you hang a detector on one or both of the holes, and then if you do that, then the photons are pinned down to have only gone through one of the holes.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day for like the Big Bang Theory people to sort of meet in the middle with the Christians with regard to the Big Bang Theory. And, you know, essentially I believe that the Big Bang Theory happened, and some of the Christians do not believe that. But if you look at the book of Genesis, when God said, "Let there be light," I think, bang, there was your light. So, but they just a lot of them are very stubborn, and they're afraid to be open-minded.
Well, I think
To
one of the
science.
themes we might end up exploring tonight is, I think conservatives tend to have a zero-sum view of the world. That for some people to do well, other people there aren't enough resources to go around, and so for some you have to hold back immigration, you have to do stuff for the people who are already here to thrive. And I think it's a more liberal point of view to believe in abundance. And I think that the future is full of abundance, but you have to be tolerant of change because things are going to get weird. So it's going to be abundance, but weirdness.
Yeah, I think protectionism and isolationism is popular. It's fashionable right now.
Yeah. Lance?
Well, isolationism isolationism means, the classical isolationism means that you're not going to get involved in foreign conflicts. And I don't think anybody is avoiding foreign conflicts. That's not Trump's policy.
But limiting immigration is, and making it kind of miserable for immigrants.
Economic isolationism is what I should probably expound a little bit, but protectionism and economic isolationism is
We can tie
definitely popular right now.
we can tie in one more thing, which is we had two. Sorry.
No, I don't know. I've never heard of economic isolationism. I don't even know if that's a real thing.
Have you heard of Cato Institute? It's libertarian. They discuss economic isolationism
And what do they say
protectionist
about it?
policies. Well, they're not for it. It's it hurts the economy. And in fact, under George W. Bush, several of the freer enterprise thinking conservatives were for immigration reform, fixing the broken system, because essentially you have a lot of millions of undocumented immigrants who are paying into the tax system, and in my view that is taxation without representation. And so George W. Bush promoted and pushed for immigration reform, and a lot of the Cato libertarian thinkers helped in that movement, but were hijacked by protectionist Republicans, such as Tom Tancredo and Congressman Atticus.
There's two different things now. You're talking about two different things. Protectionism is trade barriers. That is putting tariffs on foreign goods. Illegal immigration is a completely different subject. So what are we talking about?
Labor.
So you don't want to talk about protectionism.
We could talk about both. For instance, the tariffs that Donald Trump is wanting to impose on Canada, I don't think that's a free market policy at all. I think it's going to hurt us in the end. It's very anti-Ronald Reagan. In fact, Ronald Reagan promoted good partnerships with Canada and Mexico, which is extremely wise to have our neighbors as our best friends from a national security standpoint. Look at the Zimmerman telegraph when the Russians tried to tell the country of Mexico, hey, help us out. I mean, not the Russians, oh my God. Germany tried to get Mexico to side with them and sort of use them as a backdoor to hurt the United States. And Mexico sent the telegram to the US government, and that's how, you know, the German enemies were discovered.
Actually, the telegram was sent by British intelligence, and it's actually the reason that the British were able to get us to enter the war against Germany in World War I. As far as the Cato Institute goes and tariffs, I'll start with that.
Can we, hold on, just place this in time. This is the Sunday after the G7 meeting where Trump kind of feuded with the rest of the G7. And, you know, cut, you know, most, particularly with Canada.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing. It's possible that the Mexicans sent that telegram to the
I know
US.
they sent it
But
to the US.
it was...
As a Mexican
it is-
American, that's
okay,
the thing that I'm
it's-
proud of.
Okay, it is considered one of the great coups of British intelligence, because I know for certain that the British sent it to Wilson, and that it was one of the ways that the British managed to get us into World War I. So exactly what the Mexican role was, I don't know. Now,
Their role was to not side with Germany. So even though Germany said here, you know, we'll give you Texas and other parts of the United States in exchange for being, you know, on our side, but that wasn't the case. And I think the United States governments, and certainly Americans today, especially the Trump Americans who voted for Trump, they don't realize how important it is to be really good neighbors with Canada and Mexico. Because when everything goes to shit, the one thing that we do want is to be friendly with our neighbors to the north and the south from a national
I think
security
we're plenty
standpoint.
friendly with Mexico and Canada. I think we're as friendly as they deserve.
I don't think it's friendly for Donald Trump to paint with a broad brush and label Mexicans as murderers and rapists.
He never did that.
He did.
No, he didn't. If you go to the actual speech, what he was referring to was the thousands of illegal aliens that are coming over the border, and that some of them are rapists and murderers, which can't be denied.
There's
And-
a lot of dog whistle with that.
I'm not interested in dog whistle. I'm interested in reality. If he wanted to say all Mexicans are murderers and racists, I guarantee he would have said that. But that's not what he said. He was referring to the problem we have of illegal aliens pouring over the border and raping and murdering us. So
Except
that's what
that-
bothered
except
Trump, and
that-
it bothers me too.
Immigrants' crime rates, including undocumented immigrants' crime rates, are lower than the average
That's
American.
not true. I'm sorry, that's
Well,
not
out of
true.
all the immigrants that are here, about less than 15 to 20% are the real criminal element of the undocumented immigrants. And this is Cato. I'm citing Cato.
I don't
Institute.
care.
Well,
I don't care.
You may not care.
I don't care.
Somebody
how-
might want to know where I'm citing this information
well,
from.
let me cite this information. Hundreds of thousands of people in Texas. I know, for example, exactly. I know the state. I don't know all the statistics for all the states, but I know that hundreds of thousands of Texans have been have had crimes committed against them by illegal aliens. I know that they're turning border towns into drug-infested hellholes. MS-13 is spreading all throughout my country.
How many MS-13 are in the country?
I don't care. I don't care.
Very small.
Okay,
But
well, you know what?
It's like he
You know
wants
what?
to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No,
not
I
really
don't-
identify the real criminal element of the undocumented that are here, because
I don't care
the
whether-
vast majority of the undocumented people are here taking the jobs that I won't work, that you certainly won't work.
Oh, I will.
The fields,
If you
really?
pay me enough, I will.
Oh, really?
Sure.
That is so
Sure.
anti-Republican.
Sure.
How much
if you-
to pick
no,
strawberries?
No, what'll happen is this, guys. If the illegal, by the way, the reason that we, among other things, people are beginning to find a correlation between the fact that we have a gigantic surge in employed Americans and the Trump administration cutting down on illegal immigrants. They know that the tax breaks and all the other big economic, the loosening of regulations, the energy sector reforms have increased employment, but they're finding that there's a strange correlation between the fact that thousands and thousands of illegal alien blue-collar workers aren't pouring over the border like they were, and American blue-collar employment is going up.
The decrease happened during the last 2 years of the Obama administration. This isn't new under the Trump administration.
Actually, that's not true.
It is true.
No, I'll tell you why it isn't true.
And I'll cite
No,
Cato
no, no,
for the
no,
record.
no. Okay, well, you can cite Cato, but
Okay.
I can say that under the Obama administration, unemployment, there were increases in workers by about 170,000 a month in the last year. Under the Trump administration, it's gone up to 220,000 a month. That means it's
Where are you
accelerating.
getting your stats? Because
We
according
can
to
look it
stats I've
up.
seen-
We can look it up. But I'm not done, Rick.
Oh, okay.
I'm not done, Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
First of all, so we've gone from, so not only is the employment rate for Americans going up, it's accelerating, okay? It's accelerating. It's not at the same
So
pace
it's
as
a
Obama.
deficit.
But there's more. Wait. The
Lance,
second
can you
thing,
shoot your camera a little bit?
the second thing that's important is that the workers in America now are getting paid higher wages than they were under the Obama administration. Now, there's a big difference between having a job that pays lousy and a job that pays incredibly well, and that's what's happening more and more under Trump's recovery.
Republican politicians don't advocate for higher per hour wage increases, and you should know that.
Well, let me tell you something, Didi. I don't care what Republican politicians advocate for. It's beside the point. Trump's reforms are increasing the rate of pay for workers. That's all that
Negative.
matters.
That's just not true.
That workers today are getting higher wages than they were under Obama?
It's because of the policies that were set by state politicians
No.
who promoted wage increase. And not only that, employment has been slowly rising after the mess that Obama had to fix because of the Bush policies, saving the big banks.
No, the reason.
GM.
Okay. I just told you that unemployment was going down under Obama, but it is accelerating. The level of American citizens being employed is accelerating from 170,000 a month in Obama's last year to 220,000 a month in this year under Trump, and that the wages are higher than they were under Obama. So employment is better than it's ever been under Trump.
So,
And you can't say
And-
that for Obama.
And
Well,
you're citing the fact that taxes have been reduced, but what you're forgetting is right now, according to Forbes, we're at the highest with regard to the national debt. I mean, we're creating all kinds of long-term messes for our children.
Okay.
let me disagree
the
with you
reason-
also
the
about
reason
hold on,
we're
hold
at
on,
the
hold on. Let me
highest-
say a thing real quick. The last stats I saw were that last year under Trump, or the first year under Trump, unemployment went down by about 205,000 a month, which was less than the average, not a lot less, but still less than the average monthly rate for the last 4 years of Obama. and that under Trump, wages have gone up by, on average, 2.7%, which isn't huge. So anyway,
Well, look, according to the New York Times, the employment situation is the best it's ever been. And I'm sorry, I guess you guys don't like that, but that's the way it works.
Things with regard to
That's the way it is.
Things with regard to employment are pretty good. But
thank you. Because we have to be honest with each other. Now, as far as illegal immigration, I think it's a disaster for this country. And I don't know how an American citizen like yourself, Dee Dee, can advocate this.
Advocate for
increases the
undocumented immigrant reform?
Well, if the reform involves keeping them out, I'm very happy to hear that reform.
Well, of course not. I mean, we need. Okay, who's going to take care of you two? Both of you
When we're
are the
old.
baby boomers. Who's going to wipe your ass? It ain't going to be your children. It's more than likely going to be the Mexican American or the future
robots.
Mexican American.
There will be butt wiping America.
I don't know if baby boomers can afford it. They can barely
I'd
afford their
rather have a robot.
medication right now.
I'd rather have a robot.
Seriously.
You know what? That's a terrible argument, Dee Dee.
It
Because
is not.
you know what? I'll take care of my own butt.
So
I
many
do not
people-
need I do not need an illegal alien to come over the border and take care of my butt.
When
You know,
you're 80 years
bad
old,
argument,
I will
Didi.
visit you and see where you're at and see who's taking care of your butt. But
And if necessary, if I need anybody to take care of my butt, I will hire an American citizen. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, I've got direct experience.
they're
Well,
going
my
to charge
dad
you
is-
an arm and a leg.
My
It'll be
dad,
worth it.
actually, my mother-in-law and my dad are both in joints. They're both capable at this point of wiping their own butts, but they're in places where, if they needed it, their butts would be wiped for them. And one of the places is California, where it costs twice as much to be in this joint as where my dad is in New Mexico, which I would assume it's one of these right-to-work states, and I assume they have a larger immigrant percentage of immigrants, and I'm sure that one of the things that makes my dad's place cost $4,000 a month compared to my mother-in-law's place, which costs $8,000 a month, one of those factors probably has to do with immigration. One of the things that makes one place half as much, even though they provide the same services.
Well, one of the reasons that LA is so expensive to live in, Rick, is because we've got millions and millions of people that have poured over the border from the south that shouldn't be here. And they have taken up all the low rent housing. So now it's very hard to find cheap housing in California
That's true. It is hard to
because of the
find.
millions of illegals that you Democrats have let in.
Well, I agree. There is a housing shortage.
But there wasn't a housing shortage to this extent when we controlled our border. You cannot fit 3 million illegal aliens into California without putting them in houses. And those houses normally would go to poor American citizens.
Well, part of it is that California is still an attractive place to live. And there are 40 million people.
Apparently, it's a lot more attractive than Mexico.
Well, with regard to the way that the U.S. is populating itself, the white demographic are only populating themselves at two people.
Okay.
So 2 per 2.
Replacement level for every
Right,
couple.
and right now we don't have the population to take care of the Anglos. So
It's so ridiculous.
Again, I'm getting this information
I'm sorry.
from Facebook.
As an Anglo, we'll take care of ourselves.
You don't have the population to do that.
No. Thank you very much, Didi. I would just like to announce that I and all my Anglo buddies, if that's what I am I an Anglo?
Can you look to the camera?
I used to think I was an American citizen, but since I'm not a Hispanic, we'll take care of ourselves. I do not need Hispanics to pour over the border by the million
Don't have
to
the
come and take care of it.
population.
I'm not worried about it.
Wait a second.
I'll settle the problem when the time comes. I do not want to give the entire southwest of the United States to the people of Mexico because I'm worried that I won't be able to take care of myself.
Your mom needed care for quite a while.
Yeah, by an American citizen.
Was Whitey everybody who took care of your mom?
She was a Mexican-American citizen.
Really? So a Mexican-American took care of your mom?
Yeah.
Why not Whitey?
As a matter of fact, I've dated Mexican-Americans. It gets worse.
Yay! I mean, I could do cartwheels on
and
that,
not only
but...
I let Mexican-Americans into my studio.
Wow!
In fact, half the people I deal with are Mexican-American.
You guys don't have the population to take care of yourselves.
No, I will be the judge of that. If that's your argument,
the statistics are there.
If that's your argument, I'm sorry, it's
The
ridiculous.
demographic statistics are there.
Okay, I don't need Mexicans to come from
No,
Mexico.
they're not. It's
to
not
take care of
Mexican
myself.
statistics. This comes from Cato.
I'm not worried about it. Somehow.
Well, because you're selfish.
No.
I care about the old white people.
Okay, somehow,
Others.
old white people have survived up till now. So your concern about me and white people is charming. I'm touched.
You should
But
be.
somehow, up till now, white people managed just fine, and somehow we will again.
You're not populating yourselves enough to take care of yourselves.
That's kind of true, because
we
there's
went
never
over that.
been as big a wave of old white people as there will be. The oldest baby boomers are now 72. I think that's 1 year older than Trump. The youngest ones are 54.
I would rather have old white people work out more and try and control their diet and stay in shape.
Have you seen old
Have you
white
seen
people?
Bring over millions of Mexicans
They're all
to take
fat.
care of the Southwest. No, in fact, it is my patriotic duty to make sure that old white people stay in shape, eat right, low salt diets, so that we don't have to import millions and millions of Mexicans into my country to take care of them and wipe their asses.
If you get them healthy, they just live longer, requiring more care.
No,
Exactly.
you know what? I have faith.
Good point.
Think of the founding fathers: red hair, white skin, blazing trails throughout our woods, fighting the Indians, fighting the British. No, I believe that the white Americans will somehow survive without the help of Mexicans
There used to be
to wipe their
There
asses.
used to-
Somehow those asses will be, those pink, hairless, white, pimpled asses will be wiped.
droopy in the middle, elephant ass.
They will be wiped
Yep.
without the Mexican.
Okay, there used to be.
Without Mexicans.
If
Sorry.
you wanted the cheapest boob job on the market, if you were a stripper and you wanted to get a pair of fake boobs for $3,000, there was one place to go. It was
Brazil.
Well, I think they were still, because they do good quality work in Brazil, but there's a surgeon in Vegas, this lunatic surgeon who was the cheapest on the market. And one reason was that he'd have his day's worth of boob jobs. Like everybody would be recuperating together. And there was no aftercare. All the boob job people were staggering around with their sore boobs and their drains and their IVs, taking care of each other in this recovery room. That's why the boobs were so cheap, because there was no aftercare. That's what it's going to be like with old white people. The old white people are going to be wiping each other's asses, with using walkers to get around, to get at each other's butts.
All right, let's move on to another topic, please.
There's a related topic, a grim topic, that I think relates to the U.S. becoming a meaner place. We had 2 huge celebrity suicides this past week, Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain. And of course, the individual motivations, they're individual, but they serve to highlight that the suicide rate for more than half of U.S. states has increased by more than 30%. And the suicide rate for the nation as a whole has increased by more than 25% since 1999. If this was any other disease, this would be considered an epidemic that needed all our resources to be devoted to it. And there are various reasons why. There's economic malaise. There's the opioid crisis. There's a lot of stuff going on. But what it underlines is that a lot of people are sad. Also, that guns are very efficient suicide machines. If you subtract the suicide by gun from the statistics, the rate, the increase in suicide goes way down too. But anyway, we've got this epidemic going on. And I think it reflects America being a more bleak place, which might relate to, the politics, the zero-sum politics, that there need to be winners and losers.
I wonder how many of those committing suicide. I'm curious as to the demographics, because again, we need enough of you white people to wipe each other your butts, according to Lance. So, do you know what the demographics are on the suicide rate?
No, I don't know by age or by race.
See, that would be really good too.
Well, I happen to know the demographics. Suicide is either one of the main causes or the main cause of death among teenagers. And the people that commit the suicide the most are white men. Which bolsters your argument, Dee Dee.
Yikes.
Now, I have a theory as to why it's occurring, unless you'd like to jump in there, Dee Dee.
Go.
Do you have an opinion as to why it's occurring?
No, I don't know.
All right. I actually have a theory on suicide, if anybody wants to hear it. Which I learned this the hard way. And my theory is that suicide is not just something for weak people or depressed people, because I've heard a lot of people say that this week, that these individuals were weak or whatever, that killed themselves, these celebrities. And I think that under the right circumstances, anybody can commit suicide, no matter who they are, no matter what their psychological makeup is.
What you're saying is all you need is a moment of despair?
No, let me say what I'm saying, okay? I have a theory that every human being is frail. It's just we all have a different lock and key for that frailty. And I think if just the right thing happens, every individual, that lock can go in that key can go in that lock and open up the suicide possibility. And the reason I say that is because even somebody that's very, very mentally healthy can do something accidentally. For example, cause the death of a loved one, or make a mistake that causes other people to suffer, or I don't know, maybe a series of calamities that leave the person hopeless. It can happen to anybody. So I want to get that out of the way, that I think that whenever I hear somebody had it all and still killed themselves, I always think, well, you don't know what they're going through. They might be in great physical pain because of something that can't be cured, et cetera, et cetera. That's my first point. But in regards to why there are more suicides happening now, there are two reasons that I think there are more suicides, and I know I'm right.
One of the reasons is white men die at the highest rates, roughly 10 times that of Hispanic women and black women, is they have greater access to firearms.
Well, Dee Dee, I have to tell you, I work in a neighborhood where I assure you our Hispanic and African American brethren have plenty of access to firearms. Not worried about them getting more firearms.
But the rural areas are 3 times.
Okay.
The suicide rates in the rural areas
I don't think it's a matter.
happening faster than in urban areas.
I don't think it's a matter of firearms. I think what it is.
I think I'm not sure, but I think more people, among the 35,000 or so people who die from guns every year in America, most are suicides.
Okay.
And
but
if you have a moment of weakness, most people who try to commit suicide regret it if they survive the attempt and don't repeat if they're not dead. But guns are so efficient at killing you that they don't give you a chance to, they don't give you a do-over. So at the very least, you'd want to be able to explore the idea of guns that only shoot for the registered owner, that have a lock on them, so just not anybody in the house can get at them and use them. I mean,
Neither of these things are addressing the issue, though.
Okay.
The issue of gun availability is not relevant because we've always had guns in the United States.
No, we haven't had 400 million guns in the
Right,
United
but
States.
we haven't had this level of suicide either.
So maybe there's a correlation.
No, but what I'm saying is I think that if there was a study done, I think it would show that it's not the availability of guns that is causing people to commit suicide.
It just makes it more effective.
Yeah, but I don't think, both of you have been interrupting me. You're not letting me tell you what the real reason for this increase is.
Go ahead.
Can I say it without being interrupted, though?
Yep.
All right. The first reason
By the way, no, I'm just kidding.
is that whether or not we have more guns, we have less religion. So correlation doesn't mean causation. Having more guns may be the reason, but also having less religion may be the reason. And one of the things that religion does is it teaches you not to kill yourself. So it could just as easily be that as an explanation. Don't interrupt me. I have a second explanation. My second explanation is that every generation, probably from the beginning of time, is more weak, is more spoiled than the generation before, less able to cope with life's difficulties. Having said that a person that commits suicide is not just a weak person, I want to add that people are less able to cope with hardship now than they were in previous generations. Because of our wealth, because of how easy our lives are, and the way children are more protected than ever, they're less able to cope with disappointment. And so those are my two explanations as to why there's more suicide.
So how do you fix that? You can one way you could probably reduce the amount of gun-related suicides by thousands a year if gun lock technology was in place or was at least explored.
Rick is onto something because 51% of the suicide the males who commit suicide, 51% use firearms.
Yeah, but they might have used firearms 100 years ago. It doesn't prove anything.
If they could get at them.
We're not talking about the mode of death. We're talking about why they're doing it. If you don't have a firearm, it's not that hard to jump off a bridge or dive in front of a car.
If you look at the statistics, I'm sure more than 80%, probably more than 90% of suicide attempts with guns are successful compared to suicide attempts by hanging, by pills, a much lower percentage.
I'm not going to argue about that.
Women use pills, by the way.
I'm not going to argue with you about that. I'm just saying Trump said, if you want to change the law so that the kids can stay with the parents when they're incarcerated, you go right ahead.
But Sessions and Trump are the ones who created this new policy under the law.
No, the policy was under Obama.
The policy
of separating the kids was under Obama.
It wasn't enforced under Obama. It's happened. I don't know how much.
So he made a law that he didn't want to enforce.
Obama did DACA and DAPA. DAPA was an attempt to keep the families together and to focus on the real criminal element of undocumented immigrants.
I think
Trump did away with DAPA.
All illegal aliens are criminals.
People showing up at the
That's
border
very Christian.
asking for asylum.
Very Christian.
Because they're
so
They're
compassionate.
not, that's not criminal.
No, I have compassion with American citizens.
I don't see the
Wait,
compassion.
No, I'll tell you something, Dee Dee. I have compassion for American citizens that can't get jobs, don't interrupt me, and keep getting raped and murdered by your buddies from over the border. You don't have compassion for United States citizens.
I
That's
don't
your
have
problem.
compassion for white pedophiles.
Whose alliance? Who are? Oh, and by the way,
You
know how
wanna
many?
talk about-
You know how many illegal aliens rape children?
You want to know how many whites rape their own children?
Dee Dee, I don't. That is irrelevant to
No,
the
it's
subject
not.
of illegal immigration.
We're talking numbers
Dee
here.
Dee, we don't need to have one single child, don't interrupt me, in the United States raped by an illegal alien.
By anybody.
No, by an illegal alien.
By
we can't
any
get
human
rid. Dee Dee, we cannot get rid of the entire American population, but we can get rid of the illegal aliens that enjoy raping our
You
children.
get rid of the real criminal element of the undocumented. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because we need those people.
We don't need them.
Countries are going to be competing for population.
I'm fine without them. I don't need
Yes,
them.
you don't need your butt white.
My butt
by
is fine.
Mexicans.
Don't worry about my butt.
You know, most of the people who show up asking for asylum aren't even from Central or South America or Mexico. They're from Asia. They're
Okay,
from the rest of the world.
I am against.
You're right. There are more Asian.
Okay, you
There's
know what?
an increase in
I have never singled out people from south of the border. I think we should limit immigration of all kinds from all countries.
Especially the Russians.
Russia, Norway, Denmark, the Philippines, any country you want, we should limit immigration to a trickle in the United States in 2018. I don't care where it's from.
So it's a zero-sum thing. By the way, there are about 10,000 MS-13 people in America, and there are about...
Oh, wait a minute. Thank you, Dee Dee.
Who? Me?
Yeah,
Here.
you got us some MS, you got us 10,000 MS-13. Happy?
out of
Oh, I didn't get them in here. I'm on the
11.3 million
record.
undocumented
Oh.
immigrants, which is less than 1 in 1,000.
For the record, I've stated I'm not for the real criminal
Right.
element. I'm not here to punish civil offenders, people who commit a civil offense. I'm more for advocating the real criminal element because I know that we need the Mexicans and immigrants to take care of our future growth because we are not
There's no
populating
proof- there's
ourselves
no-
enough.
There's no proof of that, Dee Dee.
Of course there. Oh,
And,
fine.
and,
I'll find it. I'll
and,
find
and,
it.
and by the
Find
way,
it.
I would be happy to just have our population go down like Japan is.
Oh, that's very Christian of you.
That's fine. Doesn't bother me.
Wow.
Yeah, because you just don't give a damn what happens to all those American citizens that are getting raped, thrown out of work, and murdered by your buddies.
And who don't get their
Don't
asses
forget
wiped
your
when they're
buddies.
75.
He's forgetting that
That's very Christian of you.
people are human beings, okay? And he's forgetting how many pedophiles are in your white demographic group.
I am against pedophilia.
So am I.
Okay.
One thing we agree
Why don't we
on.
just kick out the states that have a lot of pedophiles?
I
Like
think-
Alabama.
What we can do is stop importing pedophiles from other countries.
Yeah, but the rate
Every single child that gets raped by one of your buddies is your fault, Dee Dee.
No, it isn't, because I'm
They
against
don't have
the
to get
real
raped.
criminal element. You keep trying to twist and change things. I'm against the real criminal element being here in the United
Well,
States.
how do you know which ones are going to be the criminal
Well, for one
element?
thing, it
Background
takes 2
checks.
years. It takes
I-
2 years.
No, I tell you what, I got a better idea. Let's just not let people in from other countries that shouldn't be here at all,
He
period.
just asked, how are you going to tell? You do background
No,
checks.
we
Right
don't.
now, they're
No,
living in the
no,
shadows
no,
of
no, no.
society.
They're not
Bring them
living in the
out.
shadows.
Yes,
They're living
they are.
right in this
No,
neighborhood,
they
I
are
assure
living in
you.
the shadows of society, using somebody's social security or an EIN, contributing millions and millions and millions of dollars that are really funding
The United-
baby boomer Medicare. All of this,
great.
all of the social.
Do you know how much California spends on medical just for illegal aliens?
I
Do you know?
don't.
$15 billion a year.
And how many billions do those California undocumented immigrants contribute to state and federal?
It turns out that it's not, they don't pay for themselves. 30% of the people in our prisons are illegal aliens.
They do pay for themselves.
They don't pay for
Yeah,
themselves.
most of the-
What do you think it costs to have 30% of the people in our jails illegal aliens?
They do
What you
pay
think?
for
No,
themselves.
I want to know. It's billions and billions
Because
of
your
dollars.
buddy, the lobbyists of CCA, are making billions to house brown and black people and minorities. They
Oh, I
get
see.
paid
We're putting
billions.
them in jail too much. We need to
Absolutely.
stop that. We need to release them onto the citizens.
No, we need to
Thank
charge.
You, Didi.
We need to charge reasonable prices to house a prisoner. I mean, it's cheaper to go to Yale than it is to house a prisoner.
And by the way,
Didi, wait.
$15 billion sounds like a huge number.
It's enough to build a wall.
Maybe, but it works out to $1 per Californian
The
per
wall
day.
is so
I don't want to spend
stupid.
$1 a day so you can have illegal aliens.
That's
no,
worth
thank
spending.
you. Bad
Worth
deal.
spending on the
Most
wall.
of the illegal aliens or undocumented people who are in prison their offense was trying to get into the U.S. illegally.
Or the
And
pizza
do you know-
delivery guy.
Do you know how expensive it is to have 30% of the people in our prisons housed? That's
Yeah,
insane.
it
The
is.
cost
We
on
agree
the
it's
the cost
expensive.
on the
It's
United States is
expensive. And they're in jail for working at Pizza Hut.
no, they're in jail for committing crimes.
Negative.
No, most of them are in
Negative.
jail.
Wait. 30% of the people in our jails are illegal aliens that did not commit crimes. Is that what you're telling me, Dee?
They are doing raids at cattle shops, at Pizza Huts, at restaurants. These are people who are hardworking people. They didn't rape somebody. They didn't murder
most of those
people.
raping, and they're
They
selling
are
drugs.
housing those prison beds to help the lobbyists who are making money.
I want to take
And working for CCA.
I want to reduce the population of our prisons by 30% and send those people back to the countries they belong. Because they're criminals, they don't deserve to be here, they're a massive burden on our state.
You're up against your own party.
And wait a minute, and you don't care. You don't give one goddamn about the crimes that those 30% of people committed on Americans.
Oh, I
Most of
do.
their crimes
Whose
were
side are
just
you
trying
on?
to get
I
into
do.
the US.
Are you talking about the restaurant workers?
Are you talking about the rapists and the child
no, I'm
molesters?
talking about the restaurant
Okay,
workers, the
so
moms
you're-
and dads working at
I
restaurants,
see.
forced apart from their children.
30% of the people in California jails are restaurant workers.
No, but there are
great
people
number.
whose crime was trying to get into or stay in the U.S.
Working in
Oh,
the
yeah,
agricultural
Work-
industry,
and raping,
restaurants,
and raping,
hotels.
murdering,
what
selling
percent of
drugs.
rape? What percent? I know you
Yeah,
don't
I
care
know.
about the
I'll
percent.
find it. I'll find it for you.
Doesn't
Oh, no, it
What if
does
it's-
matter.
What if it's
It
100?
does matter.
Think
No,
about.
but he says it
wait,
doesn't
wait,
matter. If
It
there's
does.
one rapist,
Didi,
they all
Didi,
have to go.
Didi,
No, it
you've got
matters.
so much compassion. You've got so much Christian compassion. What about those poor women that got raped because you let illegals into my state?
Again, let me underscore, I am for kicking out the real criminal element
No,
of
you're
the
not.
undocumented.
No, you're not.
Oh,
No, you're
yes,
not.
I am.
No,
yes,
you're not.
I am.
Because
yes,
you
I
support
am.
AB 2954.
I support kicking out the real criminal
No,
element
but that's
of
not.
the
But
undocumented immigrants.
that's not the policy.
She's from Arizona.
The,
Look, it's not
the
necessarily-
policy in California is after somebody has committed a crime and is released from prison, the Democrats won't let that person be turned over to ICE.
The way you fix this is at a federal level.
No,
John McCain has
you
been
just set
doing
them up.
this,
No, you
trying to
you
do this
get
for
rid of
20
them.
years now.
You turn them over to ICE
Negative.
and they get rid of them.
No. And as a Republican,
Anything to
Since when
protect
do
them.
Republicans become large government bureaucrats?
Since when do women like it when women get
Either you're
raped
free
by illegal aliens?
enterprise or you're not. Are you for less government
What about
or
all
more
those,
government?
What about
Make
all
up
those
your mind
women
because I'm
being
confused
raped?
here.
What about the children being raped?
By Border Patrol?
How many?
By the Border
oh,
Patrol?
It's the Border Patrol.
Oh,
you gotta worry
absolutely,
about.
Border Patrol.
It's the Border Patrol.
Absolutely, Border Patrol agents
That's the
have raped
problem.
women and
That's the
children.
problem. It's the
oh,
Border
oh yeah,
Patrol.
let's talk about that. If you're going to talk about one part, let's talk about everything.
Okay, Didi, I'll tell you what I'll do, because I'm a fair man. I'll match the number of people being raped by Border Patrol, United States Border Patrol. I'll match that number against the people being raped by your buddies, the illegal aliens. Let's see how the numbers work out. You want to look that up for us?
No,
You got your cell phone
I'm
right
gonna
there.
look up what I meant to look up with regard to the other topic.
We've been going for a long time. Let's take a break. You look up what you need to look up, and we'll come back.
No, let's not talk about this subject anymore. Let's just move on.
Well, anyway, we're breaking. We'll come back.